Alright, Risk of Rain 2 is an awesome game, but there are many components to this game that may scare off new players. Here are 10 things beginners need to know when playing Risk of Rain 2 for the first time. I hope these really help you get over that beginner hump. The first thing to worry about in this game is that the learning curve is pretty high. This is especially true for bosses when you fight the bigger enemies at the beginning of the game after you activate the teleporter. When you first start playing, you're not going to know how to dodge many of the boss's attacks. But after fighting them a few times, you'll learn how to properly defeat the bosses, and you won't have as much of a problem later on in the game. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about is the first character in Risk of Rain 2, the Commando. He really isn't that great at all. Like, if he was the only character in the game, I probably wouldn't play Risk of Rain 2 at all. And it's pretty similar to the first game as well. In the first Risk of Rain, the Commando was the first character and he wasn't very fun to play as either. But if you start beating some stages, you'll start unlocking some characters, and the game gets much better after you unlock some more characters. In fact, when I play online, I never see anybody playing as the Commando just because he's not a good character at all. Alright, let's talk about shrines. There's shrines in the game that allow you to gamble some money in order for a chance to win an item. You can win a common item, an uncommon item, or a rare item in these from these shrines. But I would advise you to wait to use the shrines until you've already opened some boxes and you don't have any other boxes to open on the level. So after you defeat the boss, come back and use the shrines, because you can just go and waste all your money on the shrines and not have any items and be in a pretty bad situation. Let's talk about turrets now. You can spend some money and buy turrets, and they'll just sit there and start killing enemies when the enemies get close to the turrets. They can kind of farm currency sometimes, but for the most part, they're pretty useless. They're kind of a waste of money unless you put them right next to the teleporter. So unless you've already opened all the boxes and then you find a turret by the teleporter, I would stay away from buying the turrets. The war banner is one of my favorite items. I really like it a lot. If you're under the war banner, you get attack rate higher, and you get an increased health regeneration and increased movement speed. So if you have a war banner, try to level up next to the teleporter, so when you activate the boss, you'll have a much easier time because you'll just be pretty much buffed the whole time you fight the boss, as long as you stay under the war banner. Alright, so this may seem kind of obvious, but when you're charging the teleporter, you have to stay in that red area. And if you go outside the red area, then the teleporter will stop charging. Well, sometimes you may need to go out of that charging area. Maybe you're about to die, or you need to lure some enemies in a certain place. It's fine to get out of the area if it's going to save your life. So don't worry about getting out of the area for a few seconds, or even longer if it's going to keep you going on your run. Alright, so also after you've defeated the boss and charged up the teleporter, before you continue to the next stage, you can go back throughout the stage and open up any boxes or buy turrets or drones or use shrines that you haven't used yet. So usually enemies stop spawning after the teleporter's all the way charged, so you just go and collect some items. But make sure to be aware that the difficulty will continue to increase while you're doing so. So don't spend too much time just looking around for items. Alright, 3D printers are a really cool addition to Risk of Rain 2. There's an item that's going to be over the printer, and you can exchange one random item for whatever item is in that printer. And the game will take one random item from your items that's the same rarity level of what the item is on the 3D printer. So if you see a common item on the 3D printer, one random common item will be taken from your items in exchange for that item in the printer. So it's pretty good. You can stack up multiple items like the Tougher Times teddy bear or the fungus if you're the engineer. But I try not to use the 3D printer too much in later runs unless it's a really good item. Otherwise, your items start getting really lopsided, and when you get that far into a run, sometimes that can really mess up your run if you just get like messed up items. Alright, so when you use a combat shrine, make sure that all of your ability cooldowns are all the way charged so you can begin fighting enemies right away. This is especially important if you are the engineer, right? So you can wait for your turrets to charge up, and then right before you start the combat, you place your turrets on the ground and place a whole bunch of mines, and you can destroy the enemies really quickly. Alright, so there's also the mountain shrine, and what the mountain shrine does is when you activate it, a little symbol will appear over the teleporter, and when you activate the teleporter, an additional boss will show up along with the other boss, and you can activate multiple mountain shrines. So you can activate like 2 of them, and then you'll have like 3 bosses when the teleporter starts. And the good thing about this is for every additional boss that you kill, you'll get additional items when they die. Let's talk about lunar items for a second. They may look really nice at first because some of them seem really powerful, but they all have drawbacks. So for example, you have the shaped glass, and what that does is it increases your damage by 100%, which sounds really cool, but it also decreases your health by 50%. So the benefits and the drawbacks pretty much even each other out. So unless you can find some lunar items that really fit your playstyle, I really would advise to ignore the lunar items. I typically ignore them unless I'm doing a specific run and I think they can really help me. Alright, so I hope that these tips really helped you out. I know this game can be really intimidating for a lot of newcomers, and maybe you start playing it and you have an awful character and it's really hard, and then you just want to quit playing this game. But after you get your feet wet and you start getting some experience and get better at the game, this game gets really, really good. So keep on going, use these tips, and I'll see you later.